Halifax Sports Talk weekend preview. Andrew and Dayton with you. We've got not one, but two games of the Halifax Mooseheads against Newfoundland Regiment. And look, it was time for the Halifax Mooseheads to get on the road, hop on the ferry or a plane, and go to Newfoundland, go to St. John's. And, their road trip is not done yet. They did come back home for practice. They had that Quebec road trip last weekend. And as we talked about, we might have been a little harsh on them. And I've said to myself, hey, look, you can't be nice about the Mooseheads every episode. That 9-3 loss was a tough one, but they're back and ready to go, and they got the same team in back-to-back days. Dayton, how are you? Good morning, man. How do you feel about this Mooseheads weekend coming up?
Not too bad, but the Mooseheads, they kind of got a tough task ahead of them. Like we said, all season long, we've been thinking about these two-game swings against the same team back-to-back. They're just coming off a road trip where they didn't actually have to face that going into Quebec, but it's back to the same old two-team swing, and a team that they've faced before. They're 1-1 with Newfoundland so far this season, and both games were, like we said, the first was high scoring, the second was low scoring, or vice versa. That's usually how it goes with these things, and to be honest, Andrew, I think that's what we can expect again.
Yeah, we've always talked about how, like, if the first game, you lose, then there's that revenge factor. Or if the first game is a low-scoring one, typically we see the second one be a little more high-scoring. So I think that it's kind of an edge for this Newfoundland team that a lot of the games they play, especially, of course, at home, they're playing the same team back-to-back nights. Like, you get that instant film, whether you won and you get that chance to, hey, we got to defend that lead now or defend that victory. Or if you lost the first one, you get to go back home in front of your home crowd. And like, it's very interesting. It kind of reminds me of when the Vegas Golden Knights entered the league and people called it like the Vegas flu. Like, teams were either losing in Vegas or they were losing the next game after playing in Vegas because they were going out, the casinos, the partying and all that good stuff. I'm not saying they're partying. These junior players are partying in Newfoundland, but it is interesting because Newfoundland, when they go on the road, it might not be an advantage for them, but playing at home, they have to embrace it. They have to embrace the Mary Brown Center as a fortress because teams are flying to them. They're going to them. And, you get to play the same team back-to-back days. So it's super interesting. But, of course, the headline of the show, how will the Mooseheads respond after, let's be pretty straight up with this, after getting their ass kicked, after getting blown out against what is a good team, I have to add, in the last game of their Quebec road trip. But how will this team respond? When you look at how this team can respond, what do you want to see from them? I know we've talked about the best players and the top guys, but I'd love to see a really bear down, strong, defensive type of game out of this Mooseheads team, especially in the front half of the back-to-back.
Yeah, well, I saw kind of exactly what I would have liked to see out of practice with a team that just got blown out 9-3 the last game of a road trip. Look, they put it in the rearview mirror. It's a good team. Chicoutimi is a good team. They're top of the division now for a reason with 35 points. Or the conference, I should say, the Eastern Conference. But, yeah, I saw them at practice Wednesday at the RBC Center. I was doing a little scouting. No, I was not. But, no, the boys were looking really airy, really fresh, relaxed. Danny Walters, he actually is going to have a one-game suspension, so he won't be playing the first game of this road trip. He got a suspension for kicking, and he was looking pretty relaxed out there at practice. He was going in, doing a couple penalty shots on Circa or Bresson there at the end, and letting a couple F-bombs go pretty freely and loudly throughout the RBC Center. Danny being Danny. I just expect this Mooseheads team to come in and play the same way they have been, with that fast-paced intensity, the same thing that Brad McKenzie has been instilling in them all season. So I think the same Mooseheads team that we saw the first time these two teams played is the same team that we're going to see this time. But like you said, the flight, will that have anything to do with it? I know they made their way yesterday because the Halifax Max made a Twitter post saying that Logan Trewin is making the jump up from U18 to Halifax. So they did leave last night. So I guess we'll see if that has anything to do with it, the day of rest or the night of rest. red-eye flight, that stuff.
And I think that for a team overall, as young as this Halifax Mooseheads team, as funny as it sounds to say, sometimes it's just as important to go on a win streak as it is sometimes to get that reality check, right? Like if they were to have lost their last game 3-2, would they have that same emphasis at practice all week long? You know, if they lost in a shootout against Chicoutimi, would they have been coming home pissed off, motivated, ready to get back on track against Newfoundland? Or would it have been like, man, we had a pretty good road trip. Like even the game we lost, you know, we pull it out in a shootout or we lose in a shootout. Like every team needs to get that eye opener, that reality check. And it's okay to me that this Halifax Mooseheads team went through it. We had to express our feelings about it on our weekend recap show, but going into this one, and these teams, we'll pull up the standings. Dayton, you're our editor, so I won't put too much pressure on you, but we can pop up the standings on the screen because Halifax 28 points, Newfoundland 26 points. This is a big matchup here for these teams, and you know I'm going to be a little greedy here. I'd love to see the Mooseheads take both, or at least let's try and get 3 of 4 points because if you can come home, you talked about it, I think 2 weeks ago on the podcast, that this team wasn't going to be home for a little while. And they've collected points. They've managed their game on the road. Everybody says you need to have a quality home record, of course, defend home ice. And if you can have a sub 50% road record or better, you're going to be a pretty good hockey club. And so I'm feeling pretty good about this team. How do you think that the Mooseheads roll with the goaltenders this weekend? Do you think that we see one guy start 100%, or do we think Bresson takes the second half? Where do you think we go here?
Well, to be honest, I think Bresson will get another kick at the can. You know, he got pulled after allowing 7 in Chicoutimi. Circa came in relief, but I think that he'll take the first game. Circa will get the second game, I'd probably imagine, because after this weekend, like you just mentioned, they were on the road, so they're back at home for 3 straight. Rouyn-Noranda comes to town, then Val-d'Or, then Charlottetown, and they're all at home. So I would imagine they probably want to play Bresson for 2 out of 3 of those. And they'll probably do a weekend split here in Newfoundland.
Halifax Mooseheads power play percentage. As much as this team's been an exciting team to watch, you found a pretty good number here. This is a low percentage with this power play.
18%, something that, if you want to be exact, 18.1%. But not something that you would want to see if you're looking to get going offensively. You usually would say a power play that's clicking around 25% is usually a good power play. So not exactly where they want to be. They've got guys like Oleg Kulibiakin who can rip the puck. He's one of those one-shot scorers that I talked about a couple of episodes ago. Also saw Owen Phillips put some nasty moves on Owen Bresson at practice the other day. He should really start to use his offensive side a little bit more, especially on the man advantage. Saw him last year make a couple of goals. Owen Phillips doesn't have that many goals in his career, but man, every single one of them could be in a highlight reel. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
Other than that,
use it more then. Got to use it.
Exactly. So other than that, I just think the Mooseheads power play probably just has to get more pucks on net. I know it's a cliche answer, but pucks on net create chances and pucks in the back of the net. So that's just my example of that.
Well, it's a young, skilled team, and a lot of times across all leagues, what we see with these young, skilled teams, and I'll even give an example of the World Juniors. When these teams get together, these players all get together. Obviously, it takes time for chemistry to build at the World Juniors, but you've got so many skilled players that sometimes they almost become too passive. And nobody likes that fan in the crowd. And you hear it at Moosehead games. If you're a fan listening to this, you might have done this yourself. The shoot it. We all know those people. Nobody wants to be those people, Dayton, but sometimes they're right. Sometimes they're right. You need to get a shot. And you hate to see it when you're watching a game and the broadcasters are like, well, that's it for the Halifax Mooseheads power play. 1 shot total on that power play. And, they passed the puck around. They had, a minute and 45 seconds of possession. and it leads to one shot. So I hate to agree with the casuals, but sometimes those casuals are right that you have to shoot the puck. So 18% on the PP for the Mooseheads. That's only going to go up here. And you already talked about this, but we got it in our notes here again. The home record 7-6-0-1 for Newfoundland, but 6-3-1 for this Mooseheads team on the highway. If you can maintain a record like that, which that's going to be hard to sustain, but that's going to help you out quite a bit when you have some home stretches as well, because most junior teams, I'd be very curious to go look at the hard data, but I know that these junior teams have to be playing much better long term on home ice for sure, especially a team like the Moose at the Scotiabank Center.
Yeah, we've talked about the advantages that they have when it comes to home ice, and even if that does come down to fans like me who do occasionally yell "Rip it," but yeah, that was back at the World Juniors. The whole section, it was me and then like a row of Porter Airlines guys. They would come. They got tournament packages as well, and every time it got to the point, it was just "Rip it," and it got to be a joke by the end of the tournament.
Let it go.
Yeah, but yeah, sometimes you got to say it, and sometimes the Mooseheads, if they can get those points on the road, it'll help them in this 3-game homestand that they have coming up. If they can take 2 of 3 here, or maybe 3 in the next homestand, that would be great. But first, it's down to these 2 games in Newfoundland, and I think they have a pretty good chance to, like you said, maybe pull off a weekend sweep, or at least get 3 out of 4 and push an overtime game.
And when you look at this matchup here, like I think that 2 teams are very similar, like fast-paced teams that want to play on the rush and transition. So I think it's going to be important from the Mooseheads perspective, at least just maybe I'm being too recent with what I saw with the 9 goals allowed. Obviously, that's just an off game, but I do want to see a really quality, good first period effort defensively. I know they want to push the pace, but I don't want to just roll the pucks out and play pond hockey in this one. I think this is what Coach McKenzie's going to want to see, a good 200-foot game out of this team. I always think when I'm watching NHL interviews, and players and reporters are asking questions to coaches, particularly, they're always asking about offensive stuff. And the coach answers with defensive answers. It's like, hey, why didn't this guy get more ice time? Or what do you think about this guy's night offensively? And the coach will say, well, actually, I thought he was very good in his own end, or I think he has to work better in his own end. And that's what coaches are looking for. Like, if a guy is playing well in the O zone, that's great. Everybody loves a good offensive player. But if you can play well in your own end, and again, unless you're watching the film or the tape or you're at the game, you're not always going to see those certain players that are playing well defensively and in their own end. So, like, there's bottom 6 guys on this Halifax Mooseheads team that have had a huge part of the success. We've talked about some of the great players. We've been talking about Kilfoyle and how he wants to step up and do more, even though he's playing well. We've talked about Mensonen. We've talked about Kulibiakin, but there are other guys that are making a difference as 2-way forwards. I think in this game in particular, it's going to be really important for this team to come out defensively. So I'm looking forward to it, but 2 teams that kind of play similar styles, would you say?
100%. And 2 teams that have backup goaltenders that you could rely on heavily. I know both starting goaltenders in Antoine Proulx and Owen Brisson both have great records, but Veknavags and Circa are 2 goaltenders that you could put into any situation and really kind of steal a win. So anything could happen here on this road trip for the Mooseheads, but they just got to remember to play a full 60 minutes and just stick to their game plan offensively and get going fast off the jump, and I think they'll be fine.
All right, looking forward to it. The Halifax Mooseheads in Newfoundland this weekend, taking on the Regiment at the Mary Brown Center. Let us know. Let us know what you guys think. Contact us, of course, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and all podcast networks. We want to hear what you guys think about this team and how impressed you are from their start so far this season. Look forward to getting back on home ice. Look forward to going to some games in December. That team had a Quebec road trip, and of course now in Newfoundland. We'll have to go to a game together and get to see this team in person together, because they're playing some pretty good hockey.
Andrew, forget that. We'll have to go to a game together and meet each other in person.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. The life of doing shows online. You feel like you know somebody who never even shook each other's hand. which is a weird feeling. So yeah, that'll be the first thing we'll have to do together is go to a game and see this Mooseheads team in person. So looking forward to it. Thanks so much for all of you listening and watching all of our shows. Spread the word. If you're watching on Facebook or anywhere else, hit the share. Share it to your friends, any diehard Moosehead fans you know. And if you're watching on podcast platforms, give us a 5 stars, give us a review. It helps us out a lot more than you think. We'll see you guys next time right here, Halifax Sports Talk.